Today's retention recipe, we're talking about feedback, and I'm joined by Sam Brolia, who is the product manager of TRP at Fitronics. Thanks for joining me today, Sam. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing
Uh,
well.
Good. Listen, it's great to have you here at TRP. Obviously, the retention people, Fitronics, I imagine most people have heard of the software suite. I've worked with it on and off at different times for years and years, does all sorts of different things. But we've been chatting a little bit about all sorts of different ideas that we could do for retention recipes and how TRP can support that. But we wanted to really get into feedback, which isn't necessarily a recipe from the original book, but it's something we're looking to develop as part of an extension. So, I've got lots of ideas on feedback, but from your point of view, Sam, just as a kind of opener, why is feedback an important part of retention for you?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, by the way, I love the fact that you call them recipes because they are things that you can pull out, set up in a few hours, and then they're just going to keep paying dividends. And feedback's a great example about that. So feedback, there's a lot of benefits, and we've really been focusing on drill down to the different stages of feedback over the last year and improving how we do it. I guess in short, it's another opportunity to talk to your members. And they talk to the right people at the right time, things like that. So you set up feedback in between your previous touch points is another point where you can reach out, represent your brand, pull in members so they feel like they're a part of it. They submit feedback, you make a change, they feel like they're part of what's going on. So it's a really powerful thing, not just for you to get information, but for you to pull members in.
So then, a lot of people set up member journeys, and there's all sorts of systems, including TRP, that do that very well. And I think historically, there's a lot of output from clubs. You've joined, congratulations. And those clubs are all important, but when they are just output messages, it's fine. It helps to nudge people. But when you're actually asking for input back, when you're genuinely listening, two ears, one mouth, all that kind of stuff, it's really important. And I talk about feedback. I talk about it a lot. We talked about it with Jules a little bit on the levers retention recipe. And I want to get into a little bit in a moment, Sam, about the way you see the layers of feedback working. Just to give some example, if someone joins, let's get feedback from them. Generally, they're feeling good at that point. You can often turn that around into a referral as well, which is also a retention tool. But after an induction, after a program review, after certain events, or as people leave, or just people who haven't had feedback or haven't given any feedback for 6 months, let's ask them how it's going. So I think it's an important impact output tool in the same way that when we chatted to Jules about leavers, asking your leavers what they think. Whether or not they reply, she said 3 out of 4 of them are going to consider rejoining at some point. Back to your point, Sam, asking people for information, having these interactions is really, really important. But talk to us and tell the listener or viewer a little bit about the way you structure feedback. Within TRP, you're kind of looking at 3 different levels, right, of getting feedback.
Yeah, to your point, conversation is two ways, right? So you can pepper them with messages, and to a certain degree, that's great. But you also want to ask them questions. And one way to think about it is if you were on site and someone was in the trial, and at the end of their last session or something like that, they said, "Oh, I don't think I'm going to sign up," you would of course ask why. So it's a conversation. So I think 3 core layers of this are, at first, it's that outreach part. So you send them an email, you'll generally have a link to some kind of questionnaire, and there's a few things that's going on. It's another touch point. So we've recently been adding some features to add like headers and footers to that email. So it's another point to represent your brand. Even if they go, "Oh, I'm not filling out a questionnaire," you just reminded them who you are.
Yeah.
And obviously, every company in the world is badgering everyone right now, and leisure centers and health clubs are the last people we want to lose out to that. We do need to remind people where we are. And the second stage, click that link, and then there's a questionnaire to fill out. We just redesigned our questionnaire designer because it is important that that looks good as well. Again, bring your brand image through, but also you might have 100 questions, but based on the first 3, you only need to ask 5 more. Um, Adding the ability to do really custom logic throughout that questionnaire so that it's actually efficient. You don't want to bother people for something that's a waste of their time.
Absolutely. And I think you see this all the time in those well-designed, maybe restaurant questionnaires. Did you have this? Did you have that? And or airport type questionnaire. So there's lots of things you want to ask, but if they're just swimming, let's not ask them about the gym, right?
Yeah. And it's a great way to narrow down. You don't have the information to hand to know who to target. Like you said, if the first question is what part of the site did you use, swimming, gym, or group classes, their answer to that helps you guide the rest of the questionnaire, but you can still broadcast it out to everyone because it's tailored during the process.
Okay, so getting the brand out there is part one, but then that part two, as well as having the breakdown, it's also having that nicely branded as well, so that I guess more people will fill it in if that's the case, right?
And I guess now that I think about it, that's still part of part one. But I think part two is what happens when they submit that questionnaire.
Okay, yeah.
Within TRP, we have something called closed loop, which means you send out this questionnaire, they fill it in, then what? You close the loop. So we have two real approaches to this. We have automated messages, which sound like something that's minor, but again, it's another reminder. It gives them a little hit of thank you for filling out our questionnaire. That's really great that you've done that. It's meaningful to us. And then we have something that's more manual. So we have what we call a to-do page. But this will be if someone comes in and they've given you a poor score, you might want to action that in a certain way. So you might want to send them a personalized email and you might want to phone them to discuss it.
Yeah.
This is really important. Have you ever heard these kind of statistics where if someone comes in and there's a mistake and then the person serving them solves that problem for them, they're actually more loyal and grateful to the business than if they had no mistake. It's a huge opportunity there. And even if it's not something you can solve, like it might come back and say it's too expensive, but still you have that engagement and you can acknowledge it and apologize, stuff like that. And we're doing some stuff there with AI as well, because one of the ways we look at this is you can be getting quite a lot of feedback. And so the admin can be quite a lot. And one thing that shows value is your response time. So if they submit a questionnaire and an hour or two later you get back to them, that shows you're prioritizing them. So we're building some AI tools to help draft out emails or put together a little call script, just so kind of admin staff can work through that a lot quicker, get back to members a lot quicker, show value in members.
Absolutely. And as you say, it's important to stress that it's not necessarily about a solution. It's about getting back to them, telling them they've been heard. And if there isn't a solution, it's telling them that as well. You're still going to help people and you're going to retain people and all that good stuff by saying, we're actually for your feedback, you gave it to us and we did hear you.
Yeah, and sometimes a reason as well, just this is why it is this way. I'm sorry it's causing you a negative effect, but we've been working on it and we're struggling with this. The final part is actually analyzing the data, which is probably the main bit that most people think about the questionnaire. In the old school, you'd have a stack of filled out questionnaires you'd have to look through. It's not like that now. We have things like tagging of keywords. So you can pull out things that are coming up in these responses, and then you can tie them to scores they give. So you might find that, say, the showers are coming up and it's a negative response. So then we can flag that through the system as monitoring things and saying the cleanliness of the showers seems to be resulting in a low score. Again, we're building this up with more AI, so the tagging is more meaningful and the way we group it is more automated. So you can say, I don't want to look at showers and toilets and lockers. I want to think about changing rooms. But I know changing rooms is someone's responsibility. So we have a lot of different ways to monitor the feedback that's coming back and group it into different sections.
Yeah, you can't get by these days without mentioning or discussing AI, but this is a perfect kind of use for it. When you've got lots of data and you want to analyze it and you want to be able to see through all those rafts of feedback requests and to want to put more data in there, you need things like AI to be able to analyze it and say, yeah, we're getting some low scores, but actually they would be lower if it wasn't for Group X instructors or for staff. And I know people will sometimes be a detractor, but they will say there'll be positive comments in there about staff. So it's important, and that's, as I understand it, how AI will work in your new release to say, look, yes, they're negatives, but actually there are positives, and the positives are around staff rather than in all of the scores below 6.
We particularly got 3 new ways doing the feedback. So we've got the AI that helps group and organize things, that then feeds back to a bunch of the reporting throughout the system. Then we have just written language. So here's a review of, say, the last week or the last month, either in the application itself or sent as a digest. And as a digest email, we get back to the fact that it's a recipe. You set this up, and then every week or every month, you can have an email that just updates you about what kind of feedback you're getting. So it's not something we have to constantly log in and see what's happening. And the third thing is, particularly with questionnaires, you've got 150 people who have answered a certain question. Let me see it as a pie chart or a bar graph. Was the problem the instructors, or was the problem the outdated equipment? Just give me a quick visual. So that's the other side that we've been building out.
Yeah, which then ultimately talks to, yes, here's some data, but what's the action? What are we going to do differently in the next week? And then have we changed that picture? And as you say, it's a picture, it's a chart, it's something much more visual than, oh, here's 200 survey requests, responses. Yeah, I don't really know where to look. I'll start on the first one and go all the way down. Less useful.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned detractors, we obviously have some feedback there. So you can see where detractors become promoters. You can also think about, we saw that bar graph with the outdated equipment was a huge problem. We managed to correct that over the year. And now the next year, we're seeing a lot of those previous people who were detractors becoming promoters. And that means that their length of stay is XYZ longer and their monthly payment is this. So you can see that return on investment. And that's really important to get buy-in for things like getting newer equipment or new instructors or whatever it happens to be that is your problem.
Absolutely, yeah. In my experience, it's often, hey, instructors, you are doing a great job. You're the reason people aren't leaving because of the old.
That's what I've seen as well. Yeah.
And let's give them that rather than say, yes, I know the equipment's old. It's like, you guys, yeah, it's a people industry, and you are doing a great job, and here's the evidence of that. Keep it up, or do more of that. So
yeah, how can we enable you to get the best out of your good performance?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So this, and I'm conscious this is what the idea of these short recipe videos is, to give people ideas and give people a bit of extra knowledge. It's not just me going, collect more feedback, do it in more intelligent ways. If you've got TRP, then look at these new features that are coming in. They're great. If not, consider it, or if not, build your own forms and surveys. But hopefully there's some tidbits in here about that whole how and why you're doing it, the brand, and then the closed loop to reply to people as quickly as possible. And then don't just collect data for the sake of it. Collect data and analyze it and use it.
As much as TRP is a great platform because it's all integrated, right? So you can have who to contact and when, you can set it up and it runs. At the same time, sending up a one and done survey to wet your feet. There's lots of tools. You can set up a survey, you can pull a list of your members, and you can just send that out and get started and see how it feels and see how useful that information is.
Yeah, which is fine. But I've had centres go, oh, we had a massive problem with the car park last year, and it was because of the snow. And when we did this year's survey, it was fine. Yeah, probably because you did this year's survey in August. Constantly surveying and getting feedback throughout the year of people at any point in their journey is really important in my book. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's good to think about how you break up your members, because you don't want to over survey people. And by definition, you need to spread out the survey sends so that you, like, every month you send to, say, like 10% of your members. So through the year, you have a constant stream of feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So listen, we could go on and advice, and these are short, sharp snippets. If people want to find out more or get more info, there's a link, ggfit.com recipes. Go and have a look there. You can download the recipe book with, the original 12, but more coming. They'll be on the same link about feedback, about some new episodes that we're doing like this. If people want to find out more about Fitronics, you can reach out to Sam Brolia on LinkedIn, but probably better to just go to fitronics.com to find out more, I would say, or reach out to me with any questions, Guy Griffiths at ggfit.com. Or there's the Connect Series Summit, which is Fitronics and Pro Insights event on the 11th of November this year, 25. So listen, thank you so much for your time and for sharing these ideas, and also a little insight into what's coming up with AI within TRP. It's always good to catch up.
Thank you.
No problem. And link there for the recipe book and any questions or reach out to others. Thank you very much for watching or listening.